Okay, so I'm here to talk about evaluating functions, but before I do that, I just want to discuss a couple things about functions. So very often, functions will be seen written as this, which is said as f of x. Okay, f of x, you might have a g of x, you might see h of x, or who knows what else they might throw at you. But pretty much what it means is y equals. So anytime you have something like this, it's telling you that y equals something. And the reason why it's telling you y equals something is because you're putting in an x value. So this, whatever this is going to be your x value. And what you get out is going to be your y value. Okay, so f of x is the same thing as y equals. And that's because we're going to put something into our function, and the y is what we're going to get out. Okay, so with that being said, let's do a little bit of review on determining if a relation is a function. So we have a set of points here, and we will look to see if we have any repeating x values, and we do not, so this one will be a function. And looking at the table, we do not have any repeating x values, so this is a function. But for our graph, we would perform the vertical line test, and we would cross this relation more than once, so this would not be a function. Okay, that's just a little bit of review. So let's talk about vocabulary. So the x values in a function, which I just showed you up here, are going to represent the input values. Okay, that's what we're going to put in to see what we get out. So to blank a function, substitute or replace the x with the given value. So that is going to be evaluate, and that's exactly what we are going to do in this video. So to evaluate a function, you're going to substitute or replace the x values with the given value. A blank assigns one input to each output, so that is a function, right? So a function assigns one input to each output. And the y values represent the output. Okay, so that is that. And this graphic organizer actually looks confusing to me, so I am going to skip over and talk about functions and how to evaluate them. So here we are given a function. It says f of x equals this craziness, right? So because we're dealing with functions, our best friend is going to be our calculator. And I told you that f of x is the same thing as y equals, which is why we're going to go to y equals. So anytime you're evaluating a function, this is the absolute easiest way to do this. You're going to take your graphing calculator and you're going to go to y equals. And you are going to enter what the function says that it is. So I have 1/2 x plus 5. I'm fancy, so I can do alpha y equals enter to get my 1/2. And I'll come out of that, put my x in, which is right next to alpha, and plus 5. Okay, so now that I have my function written in y equals, I'm going to go to the table so that I can evaluate it. So I'm going to go second graph, because notice that table is blue, so I have to hit the blue button first. And that's going to take me to this table here. So I can scroll up and down to get different x values that I need. And it'll make it easy for me to evaluate what we're asking over here. So to evaluate a function, if you remember the definition, it said to replace the x values with the number given. So here we have f of x. Over here it's asking us to find f of 0. So we replace x with 0. And if we go over to our calculator, where x is 0, what is the y? 5. Okay, so the input is 0. If we put in 0 for x, what would we get out? 5. Okay, the next one is telling us to find f of -2. So for this function, if we put in -2 for x, and I'll scroll up here, -2 for x, my output, or my y, would be 4. And then, oops, sorry, I lost my lights. For this one, it's doing the opposite. It's not giving me an x to substitute, but instead it's giving me the y. So in this case, they're asking me to figure out x, so I'd have to see where is the output 6, which is the y, here. And what was the original x value? 2. So in this one, it would be x equals 2. So you have to be careful to figure out which one that they're asking for, but for the most part, it should be pretty simple. Okay, so that's how you do it when you're given an equation for a relation. You just put it in y equals, second graph to go to the table, and look for your x or your y. Okay, the other way to evaluate functions would be looking at a graph. And it's very similar. You're going to look for the input, which is the x, and figure out what the output is. So for this one, I'm going to zoom in a little bit because this is very small. They're asking us to find f of -1. Well, the number inside the parentheses would be the x. So I'm going to go to -1 for x. And I have to find where it touches my graph. That's right here. And what y value would that be? 1, 2, 3, 4. So that would be 4. And for f of 0, that's 0 for x, which is here. Where does it touch my graph? Right there, which is 1 value for y. And again, they switch it up on us. They give us the y1, which means I have to go to 1 for y. And where does it touch my graph? 0. F of 0 equals 1. And that's all she wrote for functions so far. So evaluating, it is the easiest to just put whatever they give you in y equals and go to the table and look for the numbers that they're substituting in for x. Okay? Cheerio. If you need any more help, I will do some more difficult problems to follow up. Good luck.